Some people say that ethical brands are too expensive. Some people complain that fair fashion brands are not fashionable, and some might even think that they won't be able to find what they need sustainably. Let me convince you why this isn't true and why you can shop sustainable and eco-friendly on a budget by just following these 10 tips. Tip number 1, change your perspective. Before I can even convince you that shopping sustainably and ethically on a budget is possible, we first need to address the fact that we have to change our perspective on fashion and trends. Like I said in my Fair Fashion Beginner's Guide video that I will just link down below, fast fashion brands are rushing new trends every season, making you believe that you have to change your closet constantly and slowly turning you into a shopaholic. So you might find yourself buying new things on a regular basis, things that you most probably don't even need just because fast fashion brands have made it so affordable for us. Unfortunately, thinking that $5 for a t-shirt is a fair price and therefore worth buying is wrong. It might just be $5 for you, but someone out there is paying the full price, and I'm not just talking about money. Fast fashion goes hand in hand with human exploitation, and this is a well-known fact. I highly recommend you to watch The True Cost. It's a great documentary, and I feel like everyone needs to see it. I know that changing habits can feel uncomfortable. Usually when we educate ourselves on topics like this, we find ourselves in a so-called cognitive dissonance state. It's the feeling of discomfort that arises when our beliefs run counter with our behaviors or our habits. But it's so important to open our eyes and face the truth instead of closing our eyes from the truth and take responsibility. Because when a dress can be sold cheaper than a newspaper, then someone got ripped off somewhere and you are supporting those businesses with your money. Tip number 2, quality over quantity. I want you to know a principle that I follow. One sustainable dress is worth more than 20 fast fashion ones. I mean, have you ever checked the stitching of your clothing? Like a couple of years ago, I used to change my closet every season, and not just because the things in my closet were no longer in trends, but also because the more affordable pieces in my closet have been worn out. The colors have faded, holes appeared out of nowhere, probably due to bad stitching. Simply said, the quality of those pieces was awful. And the problem is that it's usually made that way on purpose. Not always, of course, but it is made that way on purpose. So you are forced to buy a new version of the old one and spend more money on new clothes. And also because fast fashion brands don't really care about the quality, they just want the whole process to be cost and time efficient. Invest in long-lasting pieces. Invest in clothes that won't go out of style, that are timeless, and clothes that make you feel comfortable, clothes that you put some thought in before you buy them, and just invest in good quality. You will get more worth and actually save some money in the long run. Tip number 3, get to know some affordable, sustainable brands. It is a misbelief to think that all sustainable brands are expensive. There are some affordable ones out there as well. Obviously, not all sustainable brands can compete with the prices of fast fashion clothes made under horrible working conditions in Bangladesh, for example. But do you really want to support that? I hope not. Luckily, there are so many great brands out there at the moment. Just go on websites like rathersustainable.com or check out the Good On You app and just research through all those different brands. I'm sure you will find the right brands for you that fit your style and your budget. And I know people forget that sometimes, but even sustainable brands have sales from time to time. Tip number 4, secondhand shopping. I know that there are people out there that still feel a bit uncomfortable buying things from strangers, things that have been worn and owned by someone else before. But I mean, there are people like you and me out there selling their clothing because they no longer love their clothes or they don't fit anymore. I know that vintage shopping is currently on trend right now, and it can be a bit expensive. That's why I recommend you to just go check out websites or apps where individual people are selling their clothing, where there's no third party involved. And it depends on where you're from, so there are different ones for each country. I will just list the ones that I use down below. And obviously you can sell your clothing there as well, which is great because then you can make some money and invest it in some newer pieces. Just give secondhand shopping a try. It is probably the most sustainable solution out there at the moment. And I mean, remember, someone else's trash could just be someone else's treasure. Tip number 5, rent or borrow clothing. So imagine you are invited to a wedding, so you need a new dress for that specific occasion, but you don't want to spend the money on a new dress. You can just rent or borrow it. There are actually companies where you can rent clothing. I only know one that is in Amsterdam that I will link down below. It was close to where I used to live, and you can just go there and rent clothing for a specific occasion and for a certain amount of time. It is definitely more affordable than buying new clothing. And an even more affordable solution would be to just borrow a dress from friends or a family member. I know a lot of us feel uncomfortable wearing a dress or an outfit more than once for like more occasions, because people might think that you only own that one dress or you only have that one outfit. And I know this is like a fact that needs to be changed drastically, because we should just wear a dress for more occasions, because if you feel comfortable in that dress, just wear it no matter what people think. And usually people don't notice, people don't care. If they do notice, then maybe it's just because they really like the dress that you're wearing, but honestly just don't care what people think. But if you really feel uncomfortable wearing one outfit more than once, just rent or borrow it. Tip number 6, buy what you need. First, I want you to go through your closet, go through each and every item until you are sure you know everything that you own. Sometimes we mistakenly buy things that are very similar to items that we already have, just because we don't know all of their items in our closet. And I know if you're really into maxi dresses and you want to own more than just one, then of course just go out there and buy a new one. But do you really need 3 dresses in the exact same style or similar color? Probably not. Just be sure to buy only the things that you really need. So tip number 7, avoid impulse buys. This is a crucial step when it comes to saving money or just having a sustainable closet on a budget. Don't buy something without first clearly thinking it through. I think the saying goes, why don't you sleep on it? Plan your shopping. Don't just go out there and buy something out of the blue, something that you haven't even thought through. For more tips on avoiding impulse buys, I've made a whole video that I will just link down below. Tip number 8, track your expenses. Have you ever tracked how much money you're spending on clothing, on cosmetics, on food? If you haven't done that before, then I highly recommend you to do so. This can be shocking, but it can also be very eye-opening. Make sure to track your expenses for at least half a year, preferably a whole year, because once you know how much money you've actually spent, how frequent your spendings are, you can then ask yourself, was that really necessary? Believe it or not, but it helps a lot when it comes to shopping on a budget. Tip number 9, make the calculation. Before you go out there and buy something new, always estimate the amount of wear you will actually get out of that specific item. So for example, if you're buying a new blazer, then consider the types of occasions that you want to wear that blazer and estimate how often you are actually going to wear it. Do you want to wear it every day? Do you just want to wear it for work? Do you want to wear it every season or just a specific season? You actually don't need to be good at math for this, because if you're only buying that blazer for one specific occasion, it's probably not worth the money. Or consider changing it up with something that you already have, like maybe instead of wearing a blazer, you can just wear a trench coat or a vest or a cardigan, something that you already own. I try to follow the principle of only buying something that I can at least wear 100 times. Tip number 10, love your clothing. And I know you might say, yes, of course, I love fashion, I love clothes, therefore I love my clothes, but we need to be more honest with ourselves, because if we truly love our clothing, then why do we throw away so many items instead of fixing them? Why do we let so many items rot in our closet instead of wearing them more often, no matter the current trends? I believe that we need to take more care of our clothing, because the more care you take for your clothes, the more you're gonna love your clothes, and the more you're gonna love your clothes, the more excited you will be wearing your clothing, and the less you will feel the need for new ones. You will begin to stop wanting more and more once you truly appreciate and love what you already have. Plus, it will save you money. So these are my tips that will hopefully help you to shop sustainable on a budget. And do you agree? Would you add more tips to the list? Just let me know in the comments down below. And I will also write down everything that I said in a blog post in case you prefer to have this in written form. And just so you know, no matter how small the change in your life may be, you can make the world a little better.